The final model details are coming in with this snowstorm that's going to impact parts of Appalachia as well as parts of the northeastern United States with heavy snowfall as well as ice. There's winter storm alerts already up for this storm. I've got the details right here on what the next storm will do as well, because that's going to be even bigger with a snowy and severe punch. And we're going to take a look at the Arctic blast that comes behind it. Everything in this video. Alright, here you're looking at some of those winter weather alerts. We have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings from parts of western North Carolina all the way on up through parts of southern New England, and this storm is going to be a big one. So find your area on that map and look at the key on the bottom left. But let's get right into the details on this one. We'll get into that next storm that's going to be even bigger at the 5-minute and 15 mark if you want to skip to that. Now let's go ahead and get right into this. System number 1, we've seen some snowfall break out around Little Rock, Arkansas through the day today. A little bit of accumulation even came out of that, but overall, pretty much everything in line with Little Rock to the east is going to stay pretty much rain, except for the western North Carolina mountains from here. Snow is going to be confined further north to parts of Des Moines, Iowa. We've got this in central Illinois as well as parts of north central Missouri through the rest of this evening. This is as I'm filming this on your Friday evening. We'll also be watching these storms riding along the Gulf Coast from New Orleans eastward and heading towards Jacksonville into our Saturday. Those storms could pack a severe punch with maybe a low-end wind threat as well as a low-end tornado threat as that pushes along the I-10 corridor there. Low pressure system, though, is going to be stationed here over Alabama in the morning hours here of our Saturday, and we're going to see snow here over the Midwest, at least some light to moderate snow there. Also some ice developing into parts of the western state of Virginia as well as western North Carolina mountains. And this will include areas around Roanoke, Virginia, getting in on that. Eventually, this winter storm is going to phase with this piece of some colder energy and some snowfall that's in the north central. That's bringing some light to moderate accumulation there over parts of Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin. Once that kind of phasing happens, that's going to help to even enhance the snowfall in the northeast even more. Speaking of that, look at this as we make our way towards around mid to late morning on your Saturday. Snow breaking out here, parts of Washington, D.C. and just northward of town. Baltimore might briefly start as an icy or snowy mix. Notice some of those pinks on the map here. Some of these indicating some of that ice, some sleet trying to kind of work in as a kind of warmer, shallow area of warmer air tries to move into some of the upper levels of the atmosphere there. But overall, places like Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, PA, looking like some very heavy snow in the early afternoon hours of our Saturday. Now, this is just one model showing this starting off as some brief heavy snowfall there in Central Park, New York, but quickly turning over to some pretty heavy rain, actually, and that would pretty much put a damper on the totals there. Notice those white areas and the deep blues. That's where we're really looking. Some of those grayish colors moving into parts of Syracuse, New York. That's where we're looking at some of the heavier snowfall pushing on through. Pretty much the entirety of southern New England getting in on some snowfall into the late evening hours here of your Saturday. Notice New York pretty much well into the rain pocket at this point. Philadelphia seeing rain. We'll see some sleet try to progress northward as well, even towards Boston. It'll make a run at you. We'll show that in just a second. But again, notice that wraparound flow of some light to moderate snowfall, even into parts of the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region. Again, that's not really the main piece of energy, though. This is the main one, and look at how Boston, as we make our way into our Sunday morning, right on the edge, with that warmer pocket coming right off of the Atlantic, that's going to, kind of move into parts of Long Island, southern Connecticut, Rhode Island, Cape Cod, and Boston. It's going to make a close run at you. It looks like, though, if that rain stays just south of you, you will remain in that heavier snow pocket and see enhanced snow totals. So, really, it's going to be, if you're kind of on that rain-snow line, you're either going to see a pretty big bout of snowfall, or you're going to see some sleet and rain kind of mess this up. But overall, this is where that line looks to set up. If you're north of that line for now, it's looking like you'll mostly be in the clear for accumulation, and yes, that does include Boston right now. Model blend showing some totals there around and just northwest of Boston. Pretty much totaling up to around a foot of snowfall as well as into parts of south central New York there. So some really nice totals out of this northern Pennsylvania getting in on this. Anywhere in those purple shades, even if it's just a lighter pinkish purple color, you're looking at least about a half foot of snow. So a really nice swath of this through parts of southern and central New England. I'm not calling this necessarily an extreme snowstorm, but definitely some good totals. But again, New York City looking only like a very light accumulation and pretty much missing out with this event once again. Snowfall drought continues there. We're also seeing ice out of the system in that area I just circled here. Southeast West Virginia, the western state of Virginia, western North Carolina, as well as along that arrow I just drew, trying to push into parts of southern New England. Maybe some of that icing mixing in. But the best chance for some dangerous ice concerns there is in western North Carolina, parts of West Virginia and the state of Virginia, where we could see a tenth to a quarter of an inch of that ice accretion there and causing issues in slippery roadways. Now overall, the winds with the system are not going to be too extreme, but could we see brief blizzard-like conditions? Maybe in southern New England? Yes, couldn't rule that out. 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, I think that's going to be the high end. The NAM model is going a little higher than what I would expect, but again, some of the higher end wind gusts could certainly give you a run at some lower end blizzard conditions there in the northeast. Just looking at the snowfall through this system, notice some of the totals there over parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Illinois, Missouri, maybe a quick 1 to 3 inches in some spots. Find your city, find your town. Very snowy back into the Mountain West as well. Now let's get into system number 2, because this one's going to be pretty much a blockbuster system, right? We're going to have all the hype and all the cameras looking at this one. We're going to have storm chasers out in the field, probably along the Gulf Coast early next week. People all tuned into this system. Low pressure is going to really develop over parts of the plains, and it's going to happen really darn quickly here as we make our way into our Monday afternoon, and that's going to spark off a very sudden round of some storms over the Arklatex Gulf Coast, some snowfall looking to ride over parts of northwestern Kansas, southeast Nebraska, as well as western Iowa. And this storm is just getting going at this point. We're going to continue to see this thing really ramp on up as we make our way Monday night into our Tuesday. Notice some sleet in parts of Missouri, looking like maybe around the St. Louis area. It could be snowing and turning over to some sleet as well at times. We'll have this area of some showers and storms through parts of southeastern Arkansas, all the way on down to the Gulf Coast or along that I-10 corridor. That's again going to be a focal point for severe weather, but much stronger system bringing much bigger severe weather event. We'll really break down the severe weather more in just a second. I want to go to this frame here as we make our way around, say, 5-6 a.m. Central Time. Tuesday morning, we've got snow breaking out over Chicago, northern Indiana, parts of Des Moines, Iowa, northern Missouri. And then we've also got the severe weather event probably ongoing overnight tornadoes here in parts of eastern Louisiana, heading into southern Mississippi, Mobile, Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, southern Georgia. All those areas fair game for some tornado risk concerns as we make our way Monday night into our Tuesday. This thing is going to have an expanding wind field. Where it's snowing, this could very much so, and it's looking likely like this could be a blizzard in most areas where it is snowing, and so that snow is going to be coming down hard, and it's going to be wind driven. But this warm front lifting north is really going to kind of limit the snow into parts of the northeast. The area that really has the best chance of seeing a decent snow swath here is going to be over Illinois into southeast Wisconsin, off of Lake Michigan there. Chicago, it's going to cut it real close with that sleet line for you. And then, of course, we're still monitoring those storms that are going to ride through parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, as well as Florida on our Tuesday. Okay, so that's where we've got the severe threat continuing there. And then notice here, snow trying to wrap back around the system. But that snow that starts off this event to parts of New England, it's going to quickly turn over to rain and very gusty winds, heavy rain as that system pushes on into that region. And well, let's take a look right here at what the hazards actually are. And I don't want to focus on this map too much because there's way too much going on. We could see anything from heavy rain along the East Coast, high winds, big cold behind this system, all sorts of major impacts. And we've got to talk about it right here. And let's get into the rest of the details. Severe weather as we make our way into our Monday. Looking like the level 2 risk is going to include parts of Houston, Lake Charles, Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, southern Mississippi, just south of the Jackson area. And that will also go into the western Florida Panhandle. And then that risk picks up Tuesday into parts of South Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, on up towards Wilmington, North Carolina. All those areas getting in on that 15% likely slight risk for severe weather. Here's your wind profile. This is the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. Just a very strong trough, okay? These reds and yellows really indicating strong winds dipping on down. And at the same time as those strong winds in the upper levels are here and kind of coming in out of the south-southwest, we're going to have a bigger concern here in the lower levels. What I'm showing you now on your screen is 925 millibar wind, kind of coming in out of the south, maybe the southeast as well. And by this point, severe weather threat kind of shifting eastward through parts of the Gulf Coast. We're going to see these strong 50 to 60 mile per hour winds blowing 2,000 feet above our heads consistently. And this is going to create a lot of rotation into this area I'm circling as we go Monday into our Tuesday. And then look at the instability out of the system. As we go into our early Tuesday morning, there's that severe weather event that could be ongoing. It moves out of Houston into parts of New Orleans, and this is pretty considerable instability for a nighttime threat. At 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram of a mixed layer CAPE here in some cases, which is just a convective available potential energy or instability that fuels these storms. Anything from gray upward, though, since we have such a strong wind profile, is still going to be enough for storms. So in this area, you are fair game. Even if you're in the light grays, even if you're not in a color at all of instability, there is just so much shear with this system that this could still bring you a tornado threat. So just keep that in mind as we progress along the Gulf Coast, and I really want you to be weather aware in those zones as we make our way into early next week. I have introduced a level 3 of 5, what would be at severe weather enhanced risk from the Storm Prediction Center over parts of southeast Texas through parts of southern Mississippi. I've had the nail on the head with that threat there into parts of the Carolinas and Georgia, well before the Storm Prediction Center even issued that yellow zone there. So keep in mind, I think that graphic is still holding true that I made earlier this week. Now, your model blend snowfall up there in the Midwest, maybe 3 to 6 inches just north of Chicago. It's going to be a really close bout. Parts of southeast Wisconsin. We've got this in the northern part of the Gulf of Michigan there, the upper peninsula of Michigan. I don't want to show totals for the northeast because remember it's turning over to rain throughout the event, so keep that in mind. And then one other thing I want to show before we talk about the cold areas, these wind gusts. Look at this, low pressure centered right here into our Monday night, into our Tuesday morning. Strong southerlies, 30 to 50 mile per hour gusts over parts of the south central on our early Tuesday. We've got these gusts 40, 50 blowing in the high plains. That's going to cause wind advisories, high wind warnings. I wouldn't be shocked if about 30 to 50% of the country gets some sort of, or more, high wind alert out of this system, whether it's a wind advisory, a high wind warning. Nashville, Tennessee, on up through the Ohio Valley, maybe 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts. Right here along that east coast, we could see some 40 to 60 mile per hour gusts. And then we could also maybe see some hurricane force winds, maybe even some 60 mile per hour sustained winds try to get here very close to parts of Long Island and Cape Cod. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but some of these graphics showing some 80, 90 mile per hour wind gusts pushing on shore. This would be treacherous and very dangerous in this region. New York City, potentially maybe 30 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, depending on how this tracks. But we'll have a lot of details to pick out. But we are going to have a big Arctic blast come in behind this system as well, and I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty of this. I have seen both the Euro and the GFS show 40 to 50 degree below average departures here over parts of the Dakotas, Montana, as well as even the Rockies here as we make our way in the 6 to 14 day range, especially that 8 to 14 day range. So as we head towards mid-January, very cold times, this will eventually sink southeastward, and I did want to make a point of at least throwing this out there in this video as well. I'll continue to provide updates on that as we get closer. If you want those, hit that subscribe button, and that's it for this video. Here's the credits, everyone. Have a good one.